Subscribe now or watch 10 Polonia movies in a row.
We are talking Amityville Rex from 2026, directed by Polonia, who also has a role in the movie. I should point out, as I always do with these Amityville movies, the reason why there is so many Amityville films is the fact that because this is an actual place in America, it's not something you can actually copyright because it is the name of an actual area. So as such, there is a proliferation of low-budget Amityville movies. Pretty much hardly any have anything to do with the actual original Amityville horror movie. So Polonia himself has actually done a high number of Amityville movies, and this is but the next. So Amityville Rex, what is it all about? Well, apparently this one is actually a continuation of, well, a loose continuation of a variety of previous Polonia movies. And this one has Jeff Kirkendale in it, who is like a priest, which has been in a number of other kind of low-budget films, along with a couple of other returning characters. And here we have a kind of demonic priest called the Channeler, whose plan is to resurrect a Tyrannosaurus Rex to do the bidding of Satan. And it is up to Jeff Kirkendale's priest, a cop, and a woman who has been involved in gangsters to team up and try and outsmart this creature. What will happen? You'll have to watch the movie and find out. So let's discuss. So if you're familiar with Polonia movies, you know they're going to be very low budget. And I had actually said I don't really want to review them anymore because they are tedious. Because there's never really any genuine effort behind them, and they're just knocked out and meant to be kind of silly, schlocky movies. And you know, there's only so many of these things I can actually take. But I decided to watch this one. But what does work? Now, having watched this and having not watched the Polonia movie for a little while, it's obviously that AI has entered the chat. Because AI is now being used as a way to do VFX. And as such, some of the VFX looks a little better. There's still a mix of, well, AI, stop motion, puppets, things like this, composite shots, all that sort of stuff. So there's a mix, and as such, the effects really look not smooth, shall we say? And you know, for example, even the dinosaur will change the way it looks. In one scene, it will have horns, and one scene it won't. Things like that. But we're talking about the positives for now. I will say though, and I have said this in previous movies, I think AI in low budget movies is a way that filmmakers can have better looking VFX than they would have access to previously, and I can see this is going to be the future of low budget movies, and whether people like it or not, this is the way it's going to be, and I think it can be incorporated well. And I would say there are sequences here where we have, you know, our dinosaur munching people. Those sequences and their AI look kind of fun. They look the best VFX in this movie. Not that they're looking perfect, but they're quite fun with lots of kind of AI blood going everywhere and all the rest of it. Had the movie been just lots more of that, it would have been quite a fun movie. But there are some sequences where I do think it's quite fun, and even some of the kind of the more janky sort of model work or, you know, practical puppets and stuff like that are still fun to a certain degree if you are willing to accept you are looking at a kind of a low budget movie. For a Polonia movie, and I'll use that sort of to kind of preference this, is that the plot makes more sense than some of its films. We actually, okay, I'm not saying it's a plausible plot by any means, but at least in the context of the movie that it's trying to be, you know, we have, you know, some type of cult worshipper using the kind of the remains of a dinosaur to resurrect a kind of a something to be controlled, and all the rest. It makes sense to a degree in the context of the film. So you can at least enjoy it for the kind of the silly movie that it's trying to be, but at least, as I say, for the kind of the story that it's trying to tell, okay, I can kind of buy it for a B-movie plot synopsis, to be honest with you. So there is that, and there's even some of the kind of the neat little effects where we see like a cultist guy and his eyes are kind of glowing, and again, achieved 3 AI, I believe. But it looks, you know, it looks kind of quite sort of fun. It's a relatively short film, so it doesn't outstay its welcome. That's the one thing I will say about Polonia movies. What doesn't work though, I mean, again, if you've seen any type of Mark Polonia movies, all of the same stuff here, it's a very quickly produced movie, turned around without much kind of genuine sort of effort to try and make a quality film. It is just, let's make some kind of silly product that has a cool cover, and we can kind of get it out there. So that's basically what this movie is, as is the majority of these kind of Mark Polonia and other B movies, to be fair. So, you know, there's that. As I've kind of alluded to, although I think some of certainly the AI sequences look fun, they're kind of inconsistent in regards to how our sort of creatures look through the movie. They're vastly different in kind of design, depending on what kind of VFX shot we're kind of looking at. Difference in size, of quality, and things like this. We spend a lot of time with our kind of human characters who are not portrayed by particularly strong actors. Not that this movie is trying to necessarily do that, but you know, a lot of talking in rooms with kind of like banal sort of dialogue delivered by, you know, the Jeff Kirkendales of the world and stuff like that. So it's not exactly thrilling stuff. Not that it's trying to be necessarily, but had this movie just being a dinosaur going on a kind of a rampage and lots of kind of like fun scenes like that, you could potentially enjoy it maybe a little bit more. But we do get, you know, mostly sorts of dialogue sequences. Conversations in rooms is a phrase we've used lots here on the channel. I think this movie is a little bit too guilty as well of using scenes from other movies. This was a trick Roger Corman was famous for, of course. But here we have lots of kind of scenes that are sort of spliced in here, I think, from other movies. And again, you feel like, okay, I guess if this movie has a connection to other films, you can, you know, fair enough. But you just feel like a lot of the kind of the sequences, especially the VFX sequences, are actually taken from different things and just edited in with characters that we haven't seen before if you've not kind of watched any of the other ones and stuff like that. And it's overdone. It's a little bit too much here. And again, it's just a way for the runtime to kind of get filled out and to try and have a little bit more exciting things on sort of screen. Now, I said I kind of, the plot kind of makes sense for this type of movies, but obviously, you know, it goes without saying that this plot is obviously sort of a nonsense plot, but at least it makes sort of sense for a kind of a B-movie premise. But obviously, if you are wanting more of a grounded movie for any type, obviously this is not a film for you. But I would presume that you know that, having clicked on this review with a title like this, but there you go. So overall, I think this movie has a few moments where it's kind of fun. The premise is never really kind of fully explored, and you know, if you were to watch this movie for kind of bad acting with characters that you don't really care about talking on screen, great. You know, interjected with a few kind of scenes of like low budget VFX, fine. I kind of quite enjoyed some of the VFX. I wish there was it really lent into that more, and they just took a little bit more time once in a while to make a bit more of a genuine entertaining film. Not the worst Mark Polonia movie I've seen, to be honest with you, but it hasn't really changed my mind. I won't be seeking these kind of films out, to be brutally honest, and I more than likely will probably avoid them, but not the worst. But I'm still going to give it a 3 out of 10 because ultimately it's a very throwaway movie. Have you seen it? What were your thoughts? Leave me a comment and I'll look forward to you next time. Bye for now.
My name is Jimmy Smits, and you've got the shits.